Our story begins more than 60 years ago inside an abandoned chicken coop where our founder discovered a retired teacher living, no home, no health care. So she said no to this injustice and yes to transforming lives. It's this drive, this compassion that inspired AARP. Today, we empower people to choose how they live as they age. We advocate for health and financial security. We strengthen communities everywhere. We are AARP Tennessee, creating real possibilities.
AARP means a great deal to me. The organization means, for me, an opportunity to serve and help others. For those we serve and help, it means an opportunity for them to have a better life.
To me, AARP means lots of opportunities to learn about aging gracefully.
AARP in Tennessee is concerned with Fraud Watch. We're concerned about caregiving. We're concerned about livable communities. We're concerned about things that really impact people, especially the 50 plus.
AARP means a lot to me because AARP gives us the resources to give back to our members and give back to our community and give back to our volunteers and give back to our veterans. That's why we're here, to give them what they gave to us.
Tennessee is the volunteer state, and we take great pride in that, and we have several volunteer leadership teams.
For AARP in Tennessee, staff and volunteers work hand in hand. We are true partners, and often the volunteers are leading the event to us from people on the ground. They represent the thinking of our members, and so we become like family from one end of this state to the other.
I love being a part of AARP. It makes me feel important, but I'm able to make other people feel important. I just love it.
We are AARP Tennessee! Woo!
begins more than 60 years ago, inside an abandoned chicken coop, where our founder discovered a retired teacher living, no home, no health care. So she said no to this injustice and yes to transforming lives. It's this drive, this compassion that inspired AARP. Today, we empower people to choose how they live as they age. We advocate for health and financial security. We strengthen communities everywhere. We are AARP Tennessee, creating real possibilities.
AARP means a great deal to me. The organization means, for me, an opportunity to serve and help others. For those we serve and help, it means an opportunity for them to have a better life.
To me, AARP means lots of opportunities to learn about aging gracefully.
AARP in Tennessee is concerned with fraud watch. We're concerned about caregiving. We're concerned about livable communities. We're concerned about things that really impact people, especially the 50 plus.
AARP means a lot to me because AARP gives us the resources to give back to our members and give back to our community and give back to our volunteers and give back to our veterans. That's why we're here, to give them what they gave to us.
Tennessee is the volunteer state, and we take great pride in that, and we have several volunteer leadership teams.
For AARP in Tennessee, staff and volunteers work hand in hand. We are true partners, and often the volunteers are leading the events all by themselves. They provide wisdom and values to us from people on the ground and from members, and they represent the thinking of our members. And so we become like family, from one end of the state to the other.
I love being a part of AARP. It makes me feel important, but I'm able to make other people feel important. I just love it.
We are AARP Tennessee! Woo!
Hey everyone, this is Paul with Elkmont Media. I work here with Chef John at the Cutting Edge Classroom. We're getting ready to get started. As we go through the class today, if you have any questions for Chef John, feel free to put them into the chat and I'll be sure to pass those on to him. He won't be able to hear you or see you as we go through the class. However, we want it to be as interactive as possible. So feel free to enter any questions into the chat. If you have any technical issues or anything like that, also go ahead and enter those in the chat and I'll be working behind the scenes as we're producing a class. So we're going to get started here. I'm going to turn things over to Chef John.
So we have, Paul. On? Okay. Hey, everybody. I'm Chef John with the Cutting Edge Classroom Cooking School. So welcome to What's Cooking with AARP. If you're looking for a fun, delicious, and healthy recipe, well, you come to the right place. This is our monthly virtual cooking class, and today's menu includes gnocchi with brown butter sage sauce and garlic bread. At AARP, healthy living means eating right, and I'm going to show you how we can make a delicious meal and give you some tips on making sure you've got healthy options to choose from. AARP is a nonprofit, nonpartisan member organization and has been working to promote the health and well-being of older Americans for more than 60 years. You can learn more about this cooking series at aarp.org/TN or follow AARP Tennessee on Facebook. I hope you'll find this class challenging, fun, and informative. I'm going to show you that eating healthy doesn't mean sacrificing flavors. So let's get cooking. So today we're doing the gnocchi, and you come to the right place. I'm Italian, so perfect person to teach this one. If you have questions, ask, like Paul said in the beginning. Don't be afraid to just, are we doing chat, Paul? They going in the chat?
Yeah, chat only.
Okay, so you guys will be typing into the chat if you have a question, and Paul will relay it to me in real time, and I'll be happy to answer it for you. We did have some pre-prep stuff, so if you're following along, hopefully you have your potatoes already baked. They take about 45 minutes in the oven at like 350 to 400 degrees, so hopefully those are done. If you didn't get that part done, then you could watch, check out the video afterwards, and certainly make them, after class, just watch me, see how I do it, and we can go from there. So before we start, do we have any questions, comments, concerns, needs, issues? We good?
There's one comment, Chef. Says, hello from Florida. I hope you'll be able to offer gluten-free adjustments.
Well, that's certainly a possibility. Gluten-free adjustments on this one, I haven't really thought that one through right now, but I'm sure you can use a gluten-free type of flour to make gnocchi. I've never done it, so I can't tell you exactly how it's going to come out, but certainly you can email me through our website, thecuttingedgeclassroom.com, and I'll be happy to do a little bit of research and find a good alternative. Shouldn't be too difficult because it's got eggs in it and stuff, so there just might be a binder. It might, just a regular gluten-free flour might not work. Might have to add something to it. I know like xanthan gum, stuff like that is, a lot of times substitutes the protein or the gluten in the flour. So we could check it out, but it shouldn't be too difficult to make without the gluten. Anything else? All right, then let's get started. So making gnocchi is very, very simple, okay? Once you have your potatoes baked, so I've got them right here. Paul's gonna put me on, he's gonna wake up and put me on the cutting board. It's been a while. Check, check. We good? Sorry about that, guys. Paul hit a switch. I'm going to blame everything on him today, so, because it's not me. I'm just doing the cooking. So sorry if you missed something. But basically all I said was, could you turn that down? You know, I cut the potatoes, so I baked them for about 45 minutes on 375, I think is what I did. And they came out, so they're soft, they're ready to go. I cut them in half, and now I'm scooping out the potato. And I like to use a spoon for this job. Works really good. So just scrape it out into a bowl. Like, yeah, go ahead.
A quick question, Chef. What is a potato ricer, or what is a ricer?
Oh, who's asking that question?
That was from Robin.
All right, Robin. So I'm going to tell you what that is in a second. You got one step ahead of me. So let me finish what I'm doing here, and then I'm going to tell you what a potato ricer is, and then I'm sure you're going to want to run right out to the store right after this class and buy one. Because you'll use it for this and mashed potatoes. That's probably about it for the most part. So if you eat a lot of those things, you might want to run out and grab one, but I'll explain it to you in a second. Okay, so now to the ricer. So this is a potato ricer. They come in different shapes and forms, but this is kind of a commercial sized one, so it's fairly large. And what you do basically is you put the potato in here. I'm going to drop it down so you can see it, and you clamp down on the potato, and it's called a ricer because what comes out kind of looks a little bit like rice. So I came over. Oh, I'm going to grab another bowl. So that's what it is. And basically what that does for a gnocchi, and even for mashed potatoes, is it gives them a more puffy kind of end result. You don't want gnocchi to be tough, like the kind you buy in the store usually. You want them to be light and airy, like a pillow, okay? To get that, the ricer gets you there. If you were to whip the potatoes or mash them by hand, you're really working the starch in the potato. And what that does is it makes them starchy, okay? More gummy and heavier. So that's not what we want for this particular thing. 1 second, I'm going to grab a larger spoon, and I'm going to show you how this ricer works. So I hope I answered that question, but that's what it is. And that's the reason for it. You can still use gnocchi without, you can make gnocchi without it, but you're not going to get the same light, fluffy consistency that we want in it. So I'm just going to press, and if you look, you can see it. See the potatoes come out? And now you've got this, I don't know if they could see it really good, but you've got this kind of ricey consistency to the potato. It's pretty cool stuff. So it does work. You know, back in the day, you know, my parents had one, and I know all my aunts and uncles, everybody had them. Nowadays, not too many people have them. You know, it's not something that's used that often, but to make gnocchi, you definitely want to get one of these. It is well worth it. And I use it, like I said, for mashed potatoes as well. All right, so that's the last of it.
Question, can they use a garlic press?
You could, but you would be doing it probably for 3 days. So if you don't mind waiting until like tomorrow afternoon to make your gnocchi, you could. But a garlic press is really small, right? So it probably would take way, way, way too long. But the concept, I'm sorry, but the concept is the same. So, you know, it works just like a garlic press. Same exact thing, really. The holes might be a little bigger in this, but other than that, yeah. It's like a big garlic press. So you could, now can you do garlic in here? Oh yeah, you could definitely do that. So that would kind of take away the need of a garlic press, I would think. If you don't mind your garlic being a little larger and, you know, at the end. And then I scrape off the potato. We don't want to waste anything. So there it is. And it's kind of like a rice. It really looks like rice. It'll clump up as soon as you start moving it around. So we're just going to let it go the way it is. All right, so we've got that. So our potatoes are ready to go. Now, we've got the rest of our ingredients. So I've got flour. white pepper and nutmeg. And I've got some baking powder. That's kind of the little trick in my gnocchi that a lot of people don't do. I add a little baking powder to mine, and that really makes them light and pillowy. So, you know, and there's a happy place with gnocchi. They can be too light that when you boil them, they kind of fall apart, which you don't want. But, you know, it's really hard to get them too light, but you can do it. So you have to kind of be careful of that. I'm just going to grab a pot, guys, because I forgot to grab a pot to boil these. And if you guys are making them at home, go ahead and make sure you've got a pot of water on the stove. Get it boiling because it takes a little while. You know, and that way you can cook them off when you're done making them. So I'm just putting water in my pot here, and I'm going to throw it on the stove. Get my stove going. There we go. I actually forgot that part, so we need to get that going. I'm going to add a very small, probably about less than I do with pasta. I'm going to add about a little bit over a teaspoon of salt. And typically with any pasta, including this, you want about a gallon of water per pound. This is probably going to make a little over a pound, maybe like almost 2 pounds. So you want quite a bit of water. So I'm putting a lid on my pot, flames up all the way, so that's going to boil. All right, back to the gnocchi. So what you want to do with this is you want to add your dry ingredients together. So I've got salt, baking powder, and I'm adding it to my flour, okay? You'll also want a little bit of flour off to the side. I've got another bowl here. That's called dusting flour, and I'll show you what that's for in a minute. I've got my nutmeg and my white pepper, okay? So all my dry ingredients are now in with my flour. I'm just going to stir them up. This just reduces the amount of mixing that you have to do, because over mixing them will also cause them to be tough and hard and, you know, heavy, and we don't want that. So there we go. So we got everything in there. Okay. Now I've got an egg here. I'm going to crack it into another bowl, and I'm going to whisk it up. So you always want to whisk that egg before you add, again, so you don't have to over stir or over mix. I like using a fork. Everybody doing okay? Any questions? You're all a quiet group. The last time we did one of these, they were asking so many questions, I couldn't keep up. Like, you know, everything. Like, where are you from? How old are you? How long have you been cooking? I tell people since birth. That's pretty much accurate. Okay, so there we go. Eggs. I'm wondering if anybody in here has been to another class that we did. All right, so now we mix it all together with the flour. So, question? Yeah.
Yeah, from Betty, can you use black pepper instead of white pepper if you don't mind the color?
Yes, you can. It does taste. So keep that in mind. White pepper is a lot stronger than black pepper, and it's got a different flavor to it. But yes, it is a okay substitute if you don't mind the color in there. That's fine. Because a lot of people don't use white pepper. But I'll tell you, it's a good thing to have in your kitchen. Just remember, if a recipe calls for a teaspoon of black pepper, I would cut that by 50% because it's a lot stronger. The white pepper is a lot stronger than the black. Go ahead.
From Robin, have you ever used whole white wheat flour?
In these? No, but I bet you could. I don't see why not.
Then you got a couple comments.
It'll be a little heavier.
John said, yes, he's been at the other show. Victoria and Spanky said, I come to all of your AARP classes.
Awesome. Well, welcome back, guys. Good to see you or hear you again. Can't see you, but I could hear you. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and get all my ingredients into the potatoes. All right, so at this point, we're going to add the egg. I'm going to use my little spatula here to get it all in there. We don't want to waste any food, so this is a great tool. And I'm going to need that to fold, because really that's what we're going to do. is we're going to fold the flour and the egg in. Okay. So I'm going to add my flour with my other dry ingredients. And now I'm going to fold. So this is the fun part, just fold. And at first it's going to look really dry and it's going to scare you. It's like, oh, that's dry. Oh, that can't be right. But it will come together.
Yeah, Renee says, love these classes. Chef John is awesome. Don't tell
I got a fan. Well, thank you, Renee. I so appreciate that. Just tell me where you live. I'll come by and cook you dinner one of these days. Oh, man. How much do I owe you guys to say that stuff?
You got Renee's coming in today from South Florida.
Awesome. My wife's from Miami. I lived down there for years and years. I don't know if you're that far south. And then we lived in Palm Bay. So Paul's laughing, so somebody must have said
Yeah, Mig said, Renee, I want to come up. I want to invite when Chef John comes over. You got Janie from Chesapeake, Virginia. You have Renee's from West Broward.
Broward.
Patricia's from Southern California. Kathy K is from Minnesota.
You guys are all over the place.
Joyce says, here, Chef John is awesome. All the way from Texas. I've attended other AARP classes. Glad you're back. And you have Zella from Chattanooga.
Chattanooga, awesome. Close by. You can almost make it up here to dinner.
Yeah.
Now. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate all the kind words. You're all awesome. I wish you were here live. If we could fit the whole bunch of you in here, we would.
We got Rayanne also from Nashville. She can get up here in time for dinner.
I think Nashville, yeah, you can make it. I don't know, though. Driving on 40, who knows? That highway is crazy. Okay, so, sorry, was there somebody else?
Just one more. Yeah, Shirley from Greenville, North Carolina. Gosh, you're rolling in. Vanessa from Birmingham.
Greenville. We go there quite a lot, actually. Greenville's great.
Somebody's from Anchorage, Alaska. I've enjoyed Chef John's other presentations. You got Memphis, New Jersey, Sun Lakes, Arizona, Bristol, Tennessee. Hey, Farragut, you got one right here in Farragut.
Okay, well, you're right down the road.
That's
Farragut.
Brenda. Yeah, Sun Lakes, Arizona. Gosh darn.
Farragut, geez, you could throw a rock and hit me right now.
Cary, North Carolina.
We're in Farragut. That's awesome, guys. It's so cool to see people from all over the place in these. You know, it makes it a lot of fun for sure. Okay, so you see, it took me about 2 minutes, but I folded this into basically a ball of dough. Okay, so that's where we're at right now. What I'm going to do, I'm going to move my cutting board out of the way, because Paul gets all nervous when I ask him to move the cameras around. So I'm going to move the cutting board out of the way because I don't need it right now. I'm going to need it again later. But let me get it out of here. So I've got some table space.
Okay. Why are you doing that? You got St. Petersburg, Russia.
Russia?
Yep. Medford, awesome. Wisconsin. Sewanee, Tennessee. Columbia, Tennessee.
Sewanee, where is that? Is that next to Dog Patch, isn't it? Tennessee?
near Frost Bottom, yes.
That got to be way out there. Huh?
Let's see. Betty says, I love these classes, and I hope you continue to do them online. I've learned several techniques that I've used.
Well, you know, if you bug everybody at AARP, I'm sure they'll hire me for another few. But we have, how many more do we have, Paul? I don't know.
Oh, gosh, I think we have
a few more on the books.
Every other month till the end of the year.
Yeah, till the end of the year. So, you know, start bugging them about 2022. I'm not going anywhere. In fact, we might be at a new location by then, so you'll get to see our new school. We'll put the camera around so you can look at it.
Anna wants to know what kind of tabletop you have there.
Oh, this is a stainless steel table. So that's what we use. It's what they use in restaurants too, commercial. So, you know, they're real easy to clean. Obviously, they don't stick as much as a wood cutting board. That's why I moved the board. They're good. They're heat resistant, so you can set hot stuff on them. So it's definitely the way to go. You know, maybe not in your home kitchen, but certainly in a commercial. So here's my dough. I'm going to turn it out on the table. It all came together, and really, you know, if you weigh your potatoes out, you really get a good accurate measurement. They're going to come out right. So And if you don't overmix them, you're still going to get that nice pillowy kind of consistency. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut a piece off so it's manageable. And I'm just going to start rolling it in my hands, just to get a little log like that. And then, so if you look at it, I'm starting on the middle and I'm working my way out with slight pressure, rolling and stretching it out at the same time until you get it to the size you want, the diameter. I'm going to make them a little smaller than I usually do because when they're too big, I call them gut grenades because when they hit your gut, you know it. You know, they're just way too big. So we're going to stretch them out just a hair. Okay, just like that. Then I'm going to take my cutter. I like doing mine at an angle. I don't know why. My parents just taught me how to do them at an angle like this. And we never rolled them with a fork or anything. You know, the reason they do that is supposedly the sauce will stick to them better. But with the brown butter sage sauce, you're not going to have to worry about that. We're not serving them with a red sauce, although you can. We're doing the brown butter sage, so, which is my preferred way of eating them. So if you look at it, that's what you've got. So now we have cool looking gnocchi. They're cut on an angle kind of thing. Real pretty. All right, so I'm going to do the rest. I do want to show you, I do have a gnocchi board, I think. Let me see if I can find the thing. That's how often I use it, like never. But, oh yeah, I found it. So I got a story. So I went on Amazon, imagine that, buying something on Amazon. And I saw this beautiful gnocchi board, and I'm like, I got to have that. You know, it'll be great in my classes. Well, it looked like it was like a foot long. So I ordered it, and it came, and it's like this. Literally like 3 inches. So you could do like one at a time. But really what you do is you just roll the gnocchi on it, and it puts the lines in it. You can also use a fork, but that's what a gnocchi board looks like on a way too small scale. I'd be here for days trying to do this many. So again, roll it out. That's the problem with shopping online sometimes. You just, you know, sometimes I just like to go into the store. You're not sure what you're getting.
Rayanne says, you make that look so easy. Can't wait to try it, but I'm a little scared.
Nope, don't be scared. Do exactly what I'm doing. Just, you know, pretend I'm in your kitchen watching you. No, I'm just kidding. That would probably make you nervous. You know, just, they're not hard to cut. You can cut them either way, you know, you want. But if you follow the recipe to the T, they're gonna come out. Trust me. This is one of those that comes out really good with the recipe. When I make pasta, stuff like that, you know, sometimes you have to tweak it a little bit because of the size of the egg or whatever. But with these, you know, the only really thing that can go wrong is if you overmix them. So don't do that and don't overcook them. And I'll show you that step next. We'll get to the boiling water.
Question, Barry and Susan, is the recipe available somewhere? Tracy is online with AARP. I believe she can post a link for where the recipe is for this particular class.
Yep, you'll get the recipe from Tracy for sure. We always offer the recipes with this stuff, so. But it's not very complicated. It's quite simple. So, you know, I could call it out to you, but I don't want you to be scrambling trying to write it down. But, you know, it's basically baked, but so 1.5 pounds of baked potatoes, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 egg, 1/8 teaspoon of white pepper, and 1/8 teaspoon of nutmeg. And that's really all that's in them. So, you know, quite simple recipe. The sauce has a little bit more ingredients, but it's not much. So, all right. So Paul's going to put you over to the boiling water pot cam, we'll call it, for lack of any other good name for it.
A question, Chef, from Sandy. Can the potatoes be swapped out for butternut squash?
Yes. Good question, and yes.
Another question is, how do we get the recording? That'll be posted a couple of days after the class is over. We'll have a link ready for the recording of the class.
I want to take a picture of these beauties before I boil them. Yeah, so you could use sweet potato, you could use squash. What you have to be careful of, bake it. Moisture is really the enemy of a good gnocchi. So you don't want to boil your potatoes. You always want to bake them. So if you're going to use squash, make sure you bake it. Poke some holes in it before you put it in the oven, let it steam out, or you could cut it up and bake it that way and roast it. You just have to be careful you don't brown it too much, because then you're not going to get a smooth dough, if you know what I mean. So, it's always better to leave it in the peel. If you're doing like butternut squash and you got a big one, cut it in half, put it on a sheet pan, but put a little water under in the sheet pan on the bottom and flip it so that the meat side is down and the skin side is up, and then bake it in the oven until it's done. That way it won't brown on the bottom, and you won't get that browning, because you really don't want that for the gnocchi. You don't want it browned.
Chef, how many potatoes are in a pound and a half?
Well, that could be, one potato could almost weigh a pound and a half. Those big russets. It came out to 3 for mine, but I can't tell you 3 because it just depends on the size of your potato. 3 medium potatoes, medium size, about like that in my hand would be that much. So it doesn't have to be exact, but you want to get it close. Okay, so using my scraper, hold on one sec, I'll be right back. Using my bench scraper, I'm going to go ahead and pick the gnocchi up, because you don't want to do it with your hands. You'll just kind of mess them up. So I got them on the bench scraper, and I'm dropping them into the water. I could tell you they feel really good. I could tell just by the feel of them that they're going to come out wonderful. And they're going to cook for a couple minutes. They're going to float to the top, but I'm still going to give them a minute or so after that to cook. So you just don't want any raw potato. You don't want any raw egg or anything in the middle. Like, it'll look like raw dough almost. So, you want to make sure you cook them all the way through. You can see they're already starting to pop up to the top a little bit. I'm wiping my table down because I want to put my cutting board back on. But that's really it. I mean, they're not, I know I make it sound easy but I've done it so many times, but really I teach this class and people it's a lot easier to, when you're here, obviously, but people go home and they make them and they send me a message and say, hey, they came out perfect. So just use that little bit of technique I showed you, and make sure your ingredients are right. Weigh your potato if you can. Try to get as close as you can. Oh, see, they're puffy when they float that quickly. So I'm going to throw the lid on because I want to try to get it back up to a boil if I can. And in the meantime, I'm going to show you the rest of the ingredients as well. But any more questions?
Sandy, can you make them and freeze them for later? Would you cook them from frozen?
Absolutely. All of that, what you said. So yes, you can. I would make them, don't cook them. What I do is I put them on a pan or on a plate, depending upon how much room you have in your freezer. Get them frozen that way so they're loose, and then put them in Ziplocs once they're frozen so they don't stick together, just like any other pasta. Put them in a Ziploc, throw them in there, and then just drop them in boiling water, and you'll be all set. So that's really all you have to do. They'll take a little bit longer to cook from the frozen state, but they will work. So yes, they freeze very well. If you cook them and put them in the fridge, I don't know, you got about a shelf life of 7-ish days or so, a typical leftovers kind of shelf life. But if you don't want to put a sauce on them, you want to cook them and get them ready. Take them to this step, cook them, cool them off, put some olive oil on them, and stick them in the fridge so they don't stick together. And then when you're ready to cook them, bring them back out, either heat them in hot water, or you can throw them in a saute pan and make this sauce. So you can really cook these, get them done ahead of time, but you don't want to freeze them after you cook them because I think they'll probably fall apart. Okay, so I think these are done. They only took a few minutes, but if you look at them, let me grab a spoon here so you can see. They've kind of gotten bigger and puffier. You can see they're nice and kind of pillowy. You can feel it. They're soft. Exactly the way you want them. Boy, Boy, they come out good this time.
Okay, got a question. Is this similar to Knish?
Knish. You know what? It's been a while since I made one of those. I can hardly remember how they're made. Can anybody shed some light on that one? I haven't made a lot of Knish in my day. I think I made it once and it was like 12 years ago. Anyway, I'll probably have to look that one up later. So what I'm going to do, Paul, bring me over to the cutting board. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and strain these into a bowl so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay. Get rid of that. I'm going to set this up front. So now I've got them strained. More of a pastry, yeah. That's what I thought, but couldn't really remember. Boy, they look great. Look at that. Nice. Okay, so I'm going to throw them in a bowl. And what we're going to do is get some olive oil on them, because if we don't, the little buggers are going to stick crazy. So olive oil, a little extra virgin. And that'll kind of be part of the sauce. That'll flavor it too. Toss them around, and there you go. So you got them coated. They're ready. So I'm going to get the rest of my ingredients together for the sauce. And I'm also going to, we're supposed to do some garlic bread. So we're going to whip up some garlic bread as well. Of course, I forgot to turn my oven on, so I'm going to do that now. Get that oven up to like 350. So I think I'll get that set up first. So I've got just got some Italian bread. I'm going to take a pan and I'm going to get some parchment paper because I don't like scrubbing pans. So I use this stuff religiously. Toss these a little, let them cool off. Set this up here. Okay. There we go. I'm going to cut my bread in half. I'm going to show you a different way of making garlic bread. I mean, there's probably millions of ways of doing it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make almost like a dipping oil that you would see where you would dip your bread into, like in an Italian restaurant. And I'm going to brush it on. So I've got some olive oil. Good amount. Maybe a little more. There we go. Granulated garlic. You could use fresh too if you want to. I'm doing about a half a teaspoon of each, just so you know, because I'm not really measuring. That was onion, granulated onion. Some dried basil. Some Italian seasoning. Dried. And a little bit of red crushed pepper, red pepper flakes. Doing a little bit of spice, but not too much. And then let's see. Oh, salt and pepper. There we go. They're hiding. Pinch of pepper. Couple pinches of sea salt. Stir that around. And this is great on bread. Oh, so good. It's real simple. So, you know, use what you have. You could throw some thyme in it, rosemary if you wanted to. You know, not too complicated. And then just brush it on. Or in this case, dab it on. If you like cheese, you could bake. I would bake this, and then towards the end, I would sprinkle it with some mozzarella or throw some Parmesan cheese. But we're just going to go with the garlic bread. This could also be butter, by the way. Yep.
A quick question, Chef, from Mary. Any difference between granulated and powdered onion and garlic?
Yep, big difference. So, you know, powder obviously is a powder form. Granulated has a larger granule to it. So with powder, typically speaking, you're going to use a little bit less in a recipe than granulated. Okay. And the reason for that is the volume in powdered versus granule is going to be more because of the granules. So you think of it this way, you've got just like coarse sea salt versus fine sea salt. You know, fine is always going to give you more salt with the same amount of volume of both because you're not getting any air between them because it's a larger or smaller granule. So that's the big difference. I find it hard to control the powder. You know, I'd much rather granulated in everything. I don't use powder. I know it comes in a lot of spice things that you guys might buy for your kitchen, but I take the powder and I just throw it in a sauce or something and get rid of it and go with the granulated. Hope I answered that question. So I'm going to set this back here, but that's what it looks like. Yum. Okay. Let that olive oil sink in a little bit. So for the brown butter sage sauce, I need a saute pan. So I've got that ready. I've got some prosciutto here. So that's that nice Italian cured ham. That's delicious in this dish. And I'm going to mince it. So I'm just going to go like this and cut it up. Just like that. If you don't want it or you don't eat meat, you could not use it. That's okay. And in this dish, you could substitute and do vegetables in with it if you wanted to. You know, whatever goes good with sage, which is practically anything, you could add to this dish if you want to. But I like it just, this is kind of the traditional way of doing it. So I've got the prosciutto, I've got whole butter, I've got some Parmesan cheese, fresh sage. I picked this right out of the herb garden this morning out front. And I'm just going to go ahead and just rough chop the sage. It does not have to be minced into small pieces. I like seeing some chunks in there. And it kind of gets crispy, sage, when you cook it. So it's really, you know, because it's a very durable leaf. It's not like basil and stuff that, you know, or lettuce that wilts right away. Sage kind of holds up. So, and because of that, you can crisp it because it doesn't really wilt, you know, like spinach and stuff like that. So I've got some parsley here. I'm just going to sprinkle that on at the end just to give it a little bit of a freshness kind of thing. Question. Go ahead, because we got lots of time, guys. I'm trying to slow myself down.
About how long do you boil? Our first batch is a wee bit gummy.
Gummy. So it might not be cooked enough. The only thing that would cause it to be gummy really is overmixing or not cooking it enough. So timing wise, in boiling water with the size that I did, it should not take more than 5 minutes in boiling water. So I usually let them rise to the top and give them another couple of minutes to boil. But generally speaking, about 5 minutes. So, you know, if you take one and you cut into it, it looks the same on the inside as the outside. If it wasn't cooked, oh man, they're good like that. Thanks for asking that question. You made me try one.
Hey, maybe she'll ask another question.
But if they're not cooked, you'll see kind of raw potato in the middle. It'll look different on the inside than on the outside, if that makes sense. So once it's cooked all the way through, it'll look the same all the way through. So you could always pull one out and cut into it, you know, to tell. So any other questions? No, we're good. Okay. Y'all are being easy on me today. Make me earn my money. I'm putting away all my stuff here, my spices, getting ready to do some cooking. What y'all came here for. Okay, so let's see. I think I'm going to go ahead and get my bread in the oven because that's important at this stage. But these really, you know, this stuff does not, I'm going to bake that for about 5 minutes and check it. This stuff does not take a long time to do. I mean, they're really, once you have all your ingredients together and you baked your potatoes, they're simple to do. What you don't want is you don't want to pre-bake your potatoes and hold them for hours and then try to make them. Because again, you're going to get a starchy, heavier product. Baked potatoes, when they sit, you've probably gotten them in restaurants before, where you order it, you open it up, and it's like kind of dark and gummy on the inside. Usually that's because they've been held longer than 45 minutes or so. A baked potato after 45 minutes, it needs to go away and do something else with it. But they get really starchy when they get cool. So that changes the molecular structure of the potatoes, so to speak, to the point where if you use it in the gnocchis now, you're going to get a really weird texture to them. So you want them out of the oven, maybe cut them open, let them cool just till you can handle them, and then do the ricing thing and make your dough. That's the best one.
Question that ties into that. What was oven temperature, please?
I'm sorry.
I don't know if it's for the potatoes or for the bread, but.
Well, for the bread, I'm doing like 400 degrees, and I'm starting at 5 minutes. Because I know if I don't check it sooner, if I don't check it or put the timer on, I'm going to burn it. Because, garlic bread burns like that. So you got to really watch it. For the potatoes, typically a normal medium to on the large side potato that's got holes poked in it prior to putting it in the oven takes about 45 minutes on 400 degrees in your home oven. In my commercial oven, this big commercial oven I have, I set it at 350 or 375 for the same amount of time. We good? All right. You ready to cook?
Let's get cooking.
Let's do it. All right. So in that case, Paul, I'm going to wake him up again. Paul, hello. Pot cam. Now it's pan cam.
Pan cam.
There we are. Okay. So when you saute, you always want to heat your pan first. So that's what I'm doing. I've got all my ingredients here together. I'm going to go get a pair of tongs because I'm going to need those. All right. This is the fun and simple part. You could do this in front of your family or friends or whoever's enjoying this meal with you. But always heat your pan before you put your oil in. I've seen so many people put their oil in the pan, set it on the stove, look away, come back, and it's burning, right? So it's better to heat the pan first, hit it with the oil, and then the food, because you do want the pan hot. If you throw them in a cold pan, you're never going to get that browning. And we really want to get some searing and brown color on the gnocchi, okay? So that's what we're looking for. Oh, that bread looks good. It's almost done. Sounded like a door opening, didn't it, Paul? There's a door opening. And there's nobody in there? Oh, okay. My wife just walked in. I was like, we got ghosts. The place is haunted. I heard doors opening. Ah! Okay, well, we're safe. Yikes. She should warn me. Like Paul, when he comes in, he goes, John, I'm here. In a nice soft voice, because he knows.
Honey, I'm home.
If he doesn't do that, I'm going to jump out of my skin because I'm in the zone, so to speak. Okay, here we go. Hot pan. Butter. I think I'm going to do this in a couple batches. You can see it getting brown right away. I'm going to throw in the prosciutto. Actually, I'm going to say hold some out. And I'm going to put in half of my sage because I'm doing 2 batches. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil. And I'm going to crisp up that prosciutto. This is one of the few times I like to really brown up the butter. Okay, now I'm going to add half of the gnocchi. Now we're just going to let them brown off. Turn my heat down just a hair. And that's how simple this is. Real easy sauce to make. Nothing complicated. Smells wonderful. I think it needs a little more butter. I'm going to go grab a little bit more. I feel slighted on the butter. Little piece of cold butter won't hurt. There we go.
Got a question, Chef. Could you use bacon or would it add too much grease?
Oh, bacon would be okay. What I would do though, if you're using bacon, and that's a good point, it would add a lot of grease, is cook your bacon off almost all the way. It doesn't have to be cooked to crisp, but it should be pretty close. So that's called rendering the fat. So you can either bake it in the oven or cook it in a pan, get it almost crisp, cool it off, chop it up, you know, get all the grease off it, chop it up, and then add it just like the prosciutto, and you're good. You can also use pancetta if you can get your hands on that. That's the Italian version of bacon that's not smoked. So you can see I'm getting some color on my gnocchi. Here, let me get you a close-up. Woo, there it is. Flame's looking good. We're looking good. You don't want to continually stir it because you want to let it brown up. So every now and then, move it around a little bit. Give it a flip. Beautiful. Nice color. Now we're getting there. Smelling really good. I think my wife stopped in to, she smelled food. She smelled my gnocchi. Must be lunchtime, late lunch. Okay. So that's a batch. I'm gonna put them into a pan. I'm gonna do my second batch so you can see it again. My pan is still pretty hot. So I'm gonna hit it with a little bit of olive oil, put the rest of the butter in.
Meg says that looks delicious.
Yeah, we're gonna get it on a plate.
I wish I had smell-o-vision. Boy, it smells delicious.
It does smell good. Nothing like prosciutto cooking. Get those gnocchis in there. And you get that nutty smell of the butter, which is really awesome when it gets brown. Now, you don't want to burn it, you know, just brown. But yeah, it's really an amazing dish and very easy to make. But again, like I said, you could serve gnocchi with a nice red sauce like a marinara. You would just pour it on there, basically. Pesto, homemade pesto sauce, or you can even buy it in the store if you don't have time. You could use that on it. You know, there's a variety of things. I've even had them with an Alfredo, like a creamy kind of Parmesan sauce. Okay, going back in with the second batch. You don't want to overload the pan. That's why I did it in 2 batches. If you overload the pan, they're not going to brown, you know, because you're putting too much stuff in there. So let them spread out, kind of. They need room. They need their space, just like that. And then, okay, so we've got our garlic bread here. Man, I got to try to hold myself back from just munching on this thing. I don't want to stand up. I guess I'm going to have to put some gnocchi on there first. So let me set that to the side. See where we're at here. Almost there. Notice I did not put the Parmesan cheese on yet. I'm going to do that right at the end.
Quick question from Sandy. I haven't looked at the recipe yet, but how many people will it serve?
So this recipe will serve Paul by himself, 3 normal people.
True.
I'd say it's 3 to 4 servings if you're serving it with other stuff. If you're eating it by yourself, maybe 2 servings. But, you know, it's real easy to bring up or down on this recipe. But if I was hungry enough, I could probably eat most of this by myself. I'm not going to, and I don't want to. But you definitely, you know, they're kind of light, so they're not going to they're not going to fill you up like with the ones you buy in the store. In the grocery store, you know, they got mostly flour in them. They don't put baking powder. They don't, you know, they've been frozen. They don't make them right. So it's like 9 times out of 10, they're gut bombs, I call them. Okay, back to the cutting board, Paul. Okay, so now I'm going to plate some up. Let me show you the finished product here.
Sandy says, LOL, I think I could eat the whole thing too.
Yeah, it's really not that much. You know, if you're hungry enough, I'm sure you could. They're really super good. I mean, you know, when we make these in class, people are just amazed. They're like, I've bought those in the store before. They don't taste anything like this. I'm like, well, yeah, that's why you cook your own stuff. Okay, so cheese. Parsley. The garlic bread. And voila. We're going to do the zoom cam. It's eating time now. I really do think it is.
Quick question, Chef. Do you ever use a Teflon pan when cooking?
Yes, all the time. So you could use a Teflon pan for this. It's non-stick, perfectly fine. The reason I like the non-Teflon for this one, the thing that a non-Teflon pan does better than a Teflon is it'll sear food better and quicker. So you'll get a better sear, okay? The downside is it may stick, so you kind of have to guard against that. But you get a better browning, you know, on the food with a non-Teflon pan. You can still do it with Teflon, you just have to heat it quite a bit more. You have to get it hot, in other words. So
another question. When you use your oil bottle, does oil drip down the side of your oil bottle? I see that you have an arch in the top. I use a squeeze bottle and it always has a little that runs down the side.
That's a good question. And it's totally aggravating when it happens. But this one here, I don't know where I got it. And I think the spout is actually not an oil spout. It's a booze spout. It's the kind that you put on a booze bottle when you're pouring drinks. This one I've got is more expensive, fancy oil thing. I can't stand it because you literally drips out. Like there's no fast way of getting the oil out. So as much oil as I use, this is the way to go. So you can probably just get this at any store that sells bar supplies. And that's really all it is. And the bottle itself, you know, I don't know, I probably got it, who knows? I can't remember, it's been so long. But yeah, so good question. No, this one does not drip. If it did, it would drive me absolutely crazy and I'd have to get a new one. Any other questions?
Just a couple comments. Looks yummy. Can't wait to make some. Another one. Looks yummy. Lots of yummies.
Definitely a yum yum. For sure. I'm going to try one because I'm going to make Paul watch me eat.
Hey.
So let's see. Let's do the ultimate test here.
Let's see. It says, Lordy, I used baking soda instead of powder. Anna Rose says, delish.
Oh, man.
Lillian says, great class. I'm definitely going to make some.
I'll tell you, if you make these and invite your friends over, they're never going to leave your house. They're going to want to move in. So make them wash the dishes afterwards. But, you know, they really come out good. They're tasty. So if you don't, does anybody have any more questions before we wrap it up? We got done a little bit early. So let me know if you have a question. But in the meantime, I'm going to say that before we end, I want to thank you for taking the time to participate in What's Cooking with AARP, a healthy cooking class for people of all ages to enjoy. You can learn about upcoming cooking classes and other virtual events at aarp.org/en or follow AARP on Facebook. So Any other comments, questions, concerns?
Just a couple comments.
Feedback.
Sandy says, great class, Chef. This is my first class and definitely will be back for more. Another great class. Thanks so much to Chef John, AARP, and Paul. How about that?
Paul, leave him
and
he doesn't do anything.
Tracy posted the schedule for the remaining classes. And then thanks, bon appetit. Renee says, thank you, AARP, Tennessee, and Cutting Edge Classroom. Bonnie, thank you. Rob says, great. Marianne, thank you. Nice presentation and seems easy to make and eat right now.
Awesome.
Rayanne, thank you. Great job. And Rebecca said, love the class.
Great. Thank you, guys. If you'd like to go on Google and leave us a Google review because you really enjoyed the class and you want to give us a 5-star review, by all means, do that. If you didn't like the class, don't go on Google, all right? I can't handle any negativity after this year, or last year anyway. So I'm just kidding. But, you know, if you want to leave us a review, follow us on Facebook, go on our website, you know, you can see what's happening. And we do offer other virtual classes at times. But if you are ever in Knoxville, those of you that are outside of the area, give me a call, stop in, take a class if you're passing through. It'd be awesome to see you. So thank you so much. This is Chef John and Paul signing off for now. See you next month. Take care. Bye-bye.